So I'm going to try and do this quickly because it looks like it might be about to rain. But you've probably seen so far the Jimmy Dore interview with one of the Boogaloo boys, Magnus. I can't remember his last name, sorry. And it was a very confusing, head-scratching interview for me because my understanding of the Boogaloo boys is quite different to what this person, Magnus, presented in his interview with Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy Dore was basically, this guy was basically all the things you would expect a leftist to be: anti-imperialist, anti-racist, and all this sort of thing, pro-gay. He even said that he was he was bisexual or something. There was a whole bunch of things that you would expect a leftist to say. And I was sitting there thinking, hasn't he joined the wrong group, the wrong organization? Because as far as I know, the Boogaloo Boys is a white supremacist sort of hate group that they're all for capitalism, and as somebody has described, they're sort of libertarians who say they're anarchists, but really they're capitalists who want their own little fiefdoms. Basically, in the end, they're an accelerationist group that want everything to fall apart, and then they want to sort of have their little preside over their own little fiefdom, is from what I can gather from people who do research into this particular group. So, I mean, that's from somebody who I'm going to show a clip of, who has said that, that's who the Boogaloo Boys are. So I don't, and also there is another aspect to this, which is from their research into that particular organization, that, if you can call it an organization, into that particular white supremacist far-right group, they got in behind the scenes and they actually saw that there was a whole bunch of people in that movement that are they're solely devoted to the purpose of public relations. And the idea behind their public relations, when this particular these infiltrators to the Boogaloo Boys saw that their PR campaign was to infiltrate Black Lives Matter groups and then start basically introducing violence and as the accelerationist aspect of the Boogaloo Boys. So I'm probably not explaining it very well, but it sounds it seems to fit in with this particular man, Magnus, who was interviewed by Jimmy Dore. Now, I'm not going to go into what I think about Jimmy Dore interviewing. I think it would be bad faith to say that he was trying to assist a white supremacist group to infiltrate anything. Or I don't have any sort of thoughts about him being problematic in that regard. I think sometimes he just doesn't do any research. He interviewed somebody, Tim Pool, who was a complete far-righter and a grifter, and he thought that he wasn't, and he interviewed him and he gave him a platform, basically. He gave Tulsi Gabbard a platform, and I can see her as a complete grifter, and she'll be on Fox News next, being a presenter or something. There's a lot of problems with her, and you can see numerous videos. I've done a playlist that I have about Tulsi Gabbard, and not to mention, of course, she's pro-Israel and made that, and was flying under the radar with that one. So anyway, back to Jimmy Dore. So he tends to sort of get on board with things without properly doing research, or possibly it could even be a little bit of a grift there with Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know, because she had a lot of followers at the time. Who knows? I don't know. That's not really of interest to me. If I saw him outright starting to go down a path that that was a permanent path, and it was trying to bring this mythical idea of and this problematic idea of the right and left together, when there are very small, there are some things that the right and the left have in common, but the ultimate goal is not the same. And the ultimate goal is basically they have absolutely no regard for, I'm talking about the far right, they have no regard for black lives, they have no regard for Muslims, they have no regard for really these wars. They're right on board with it, really, in reality. Because you don't hear a peep out of them about all the different wars that have been going on, but they want a civil war to basically take over. They're basically fascists, the far right, and so we don't really have anything really in common with fascists. There might be a few things in common, like, yes, we all want Medicare for all, we all want certain things that are domestic issues and stuff that everybody wants. but that's where it ends. The ultimate aim of the far right does not include social justice or economic justice for people of color or LGBT people or whatever. So anybody who starts to starts to try and bring that narrative that we're all on the same, we're all, basically that we should all link arms, that we're all kind of kumbayaing together, is either incredibly naive or is trying to basically undermine leftist aims. Because, like I say, they do not have the same end goal that leftists do. So I don't think that Jimmy Dore has any bad faith reasons for having this man on, but I'll be the first to talk about it, or rather I'll be one of the many people to talk about it if I start to think that it's going that way. But it's really unfortunate that people don't do more research into these things and think about what they're... I mean, that man Magnus, basically, I think in reality he'd be beaten up by Boogaloo boys or whatever if they thought that he was bisexual or pro-LGBT. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. So, as Robbie Martin said, what he felt about it, it was like a rebranding exercise for the Boogaloo boys via a large platform of Jimmy Dore's. So, there's a lot of other things I could say, but I don't want to be trying to cram everything that I think about this into one video. I'd rather just focus on this particular thing about the Boogaloo boys, so that maybe we can have some clarity that no, the Boogaloo boys are not LGBT friendly, they're not anti-racist, they're not accepting of other members of the LGBT community within their ranks, they're probably not anti-imperialist, I'm pretty sure they're not, and I think in fact the Boogaloo boys, there's a question mark over whether they had anything to do with these lynchings in California when there was these BLM protests. There was a couple of black men hanging from trees. The police were, I think, were covering it up and said that they had suicided. The police are part of the far right. They're white supremacists, most of them, so they protect people like that. They protect far righters that commit acts of violence against, the left. So that's but that is sort of the question mark over that was that the Boogaloo boys that did that. Now anybody can say they're part of a group, so who knows? But the fact is that they are not what this man Magnus says they are, and is Magnus actually trying to rebrand them on a large leftist platform. And there are other parts to this. I'll leave a link to this particular video that I came across. I'm not necessarily endorsing Uphill Media, but this one particular segment of this Uphill Media on Uphill Media's channel I found sort of interesting, and I'm not necessarily endorsing everything that everybody in that panel said, but there's one thing I thought was very good. So anyway, check it out, stay tuned, thanks for watching, till next time, bye for now.
Let me just get back to who these people are, because I started laying out the ground of what we do know about this movement, and it's hard to... I mean, I listened to this guy's interview and I was like scratching my head as to, am I losing my mind or anything? But there are people who spend their lives researching and investigating things about this movement. And here's a clip from your friend here.
So here's the thing about the Boogaloo movement. They're a deliberate, coordinated effort that's kind of, think about them as like, instead of like the alt-right back in the day trying to like infiltrate the Republican Party, like this is kind of a libertarian, like insurgent accelerationist movement. It's like libertarian flavored. So like they'll kind of use this the Libertarian Party like BS talking points of like, oh well, we're not we're not racist and we're just for access and liberty for everybody, but like everything that they believe in their entire approach to what freedom is and everything just comes out of settler colonialism. Like it's, oh, I want to be free to have like all the guns I want and all of the land I want and be like the baron of my little fiefdom or whatever. It's basically a bunch of guys who just want to like carve up their own little territories and like be kings of their own little castles and stuff. But like these guys, like we back a few weeks after George Floyd was murdered, like we uncovered this. We went into this Boogaloo movement Discord server that had 2,000 members, called Citizens Liberty Organization, and they had like an entire channel devoted to public relations, and they had a public relations document, so we leaked it. And what did the public relations document say? Is it was coaching them on how to infiltrate and observe Black Lives Matter protests so that they could push things in a way where they could just start shooting at cops and start a mass, a chain of violent events that would let them like break the United States apart. It's accelerationism. It's just not the kind of accelerationism that Adam Waffen had a couple years ago, where it's like we're going to blow up infrastructure so that we can collapse the United States government and then carve little white ethno states on it. No. It's these guys are way less coherent, and they're way more just about, I want to get to the collapse stage so that I can make a little like libertarian, like anarcho-capitalist, which isn't really anarchist at all. They always call themselves anarchists, but what they mean is they're ANCAPs, which means that they're like just hyper-capitalist extremists who just want to like carve out their own little fiefdoms for themselves.
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting. I looked into it a little bit more, and here's something else that was talked about on the site, and that is that they intercepted what is it called, Discord a server called CLO, on which they were having open Boogaloo discussions. And they were talking about Black Lives Matter protests and so forth, and they even mentioned there they were plotting all kinds of things on the site. One of them was they were saying they would protect the BLM, and they typed this: remember, they think this movement is about Black lives. Because that was not what they were in there for. That was a pretext for being able to cause things to get out of bounds and to trigger a violent confrontation. Of course, if something like that happened, a lot of the protesters would be killed. But I don't know if that was a major concern to the people who interfered in these protests. This Magnus mentions that he did provide security for BLM, and that is the context of this. And the day after the day after this protest, one of the Boogaloo people that were posting on the site went and killed a policeman and injured another, and there wasn't even a pretext of protecting